The series begins with Amy, the girl who travels to Italy in a program to study architecture. As soon as you reach the apartment where you will sit, you will be impressed by it and its old valuable look. Caroline and Lindsay enter her, who will be her roommates, and they introduce it to themselves. The next day, Amy goes to her first day of school, and she sits and listens to the madrasa in front of one of the most famous Muslims in Europe, and then she talks to her family in America, reassuring them about her, and she tells her sister to reassure her father, who is upset with her. She returns after 6 weeks, and that the faculty of law, who wanted her to enter, is waiting for her, and it will not happen to her, and that she is not connected to ask for money, as he imagined, and Amy decides that she is looking for a job to spend on herself, and she goes to a bar owner to work for her, and with the consent of the landlord, on condition, take care of officials' taxes, because it works without a contract and illegally, and Amy goes out with the owner of the place, who greets a person named Lino, and he introduces himself to Amy, and he looks at her with great admiration, but she makes fun of her way of pronouncing Italian, so she gets annoyed and leaves him, and she walks away. One day, Amy enters to buy coffee and is paid for by a person named Giancarlo, would like to get to know her, so you sit with him on some. He invites her to his art exhibition when he learns that she is a fine art student. After the exhibition, Amy returns to the bar to collect her daily wages, and the owner of the bar asks her to let him drive her so that she doesn't get robbed, and her hands to soften her jacket because of the cold. Amy laughs and tells him that he is trying to make up for his sarcasm at her the first time she saw him. He asks her for a chance to meet again, and he tells her about himself, and he tells her that he entered Faculty of Translation and English lesson, but he loves to cook because of his mother. He decided to do it, and now he is the chief chef. Amy is happy to walk with Lino and thanks him after she arrives and gives him his jacket. And the next day in the morning, she was surprised by him waiting for her in front of her house, and he brought her a wheel as a gift to go to her work and her lessons, and please accept the gift, and he invites her to eat that he cooks himself for her in his restaurant, and he tells her that she can bring her roommates with her, and when Amy goes to the restaurant with Lindsay and Caroline, they wonder how Lino is doing all this for her, and they see her as just a friend, and they are not convinced of the idea. When the food is served to them, they like its taste very much, and after they finish their seat, they thank Lino for his time. Amy's boyfriend, Giancarlo, arrives to take her, and Leno looks at them sadly from afar. After Amy returns home, she talks to her sister, the one who tells her that their mother has it, and the mother snatches the earphone. Amy guesses that any of the white European boys she has will trick her with sweet words and make her fall in love with him. Amy hangs up and goes to the bar owner and asks her what she knows about Lino. So you tell her that he is of Sicilian origin, and that Sicily is completely different from Florence, the city they are in now. Leno walks in and Amy apologizes to him for walking too fast at dinner, but he tells her that he understands her position and that no one has control over his feelings, and that he agrees that they will remain friends only, despite his admiration for her, and he decides to take her on a tour to get to know Florence. Then what do you do with her food? But you make it tomorrow, it tastes bad. He decides to cook for her himself. Amy would tell him that she only had 2 weeks left to go back to America and enter law school, as her father wanted, although her mother believed in her artistic talent and supported her in her decision to come to Italy, but her father was against it. I see that this is a waste of time and that it is not Khalifa da Vinci. And Emily's mother and father come and tell them that she met a nice person named Giancarlo and got attached to him, and her mother is excited to meet him, unlike her father. And then Amy decides to take them to Lino's restaurant to eat there. They meet Gian and she introduces them to Lino, but Giancarlo enters them and then he immediately softens and goes back to the kitchen. Amy's father admires Bellino more than Giancarlo. Amy and her father are surprised that she decided not to go to law school and that she will pursue her dream and become a painter, and her father is very annoyed by her decision, and he quarrels with her and tells her that she will regret the decision. On the other hand, Leno goes to meet Amy and quarrels with her because she decided Giancarlo is in his restaurant to get to know her family, and she knows that he likes her, and he asks her to define their relationship and her feelings, because he knows that she likes him despite her association with Giancarlo, and Amy refuses to express her feelings to him. Tears fall from her eyes and she gives him a closed box and asks him to open it later. And Amy comes back to talk to her sister and tell her what happened, and you tell her that she will receive her needs and return to America. She is sure that these love stories are not complete, and I don't want to relate to anyone more than that. At the art fair, Amy presents her drawings on her last day of school. She is surprised by the presence of Lino, who came to see her from afar and bid her farewell, so Amy asks him to meet him at night. And she prefers to wait for him. He arrives late and decides to confess her love to him. And Lino decides at that time that he will move to America with Amy, and they will live together with her sister, who is upset about Lino changing the places of need in her kitchen. And you fight with him, and Amy enters them, who was very nervous because she has a job interview, but Lino assures her that she dazzles them with her talent. Amy asks Leno to find a job for him, too, before her family comes. He celebrates Thanksgiving with them so that they don't get annoyed with him. Lino goes to work in a restaurant, but he is annoyed by the poor quality of the food served. But no one wants to be heard from those who work in the place. Amy succeeds in passing the interview and finds herself in the place, and she goes to celebrate with Lino, the one who tells her that he is upset because he cannot practice his hobby of cooking here like in his country, and he doesn't know anyone who can help him become a chef again. He is not happy with the waiter's job. Amy decides to talk to her manager, who knows the owner of a famous restaurant in the city. She asks her to make her happy that Lino works with the owner of the restaurant, and she tells her that he is a very smart Italian chef, and she is sure that he will impress him, but a surprise happens and the owner of the restaurant rejects him and treats him like a monster. Leno gets annoyed and doesn't want to tell Amy about what happened. Amy gets annoyed when she sees her boyfriend like this. And you don't know how to act. And Lino comes back from his work one day, and he sits with her husband, Amy's sister, and he apologizes to her that they are sitting with her and bothering her. But he promises her that he will help her in any need she asks of him, as a form of gratitude. So you ask him to go buy something for the house from the supermarket. He agrees and is hilarious. Happy New Day as for Amy. She succeeds in selling the first painting in the art exhibition in which she works, but the owner of the show annoys her, and you ask her not to talk to anyone, her customers, without weighing her, and Amy returns home happy with her first victory. But you find Lino sitting in the kitchen cooking nervously, and she tries to guide him, but she fails, and he enters to apologize to her in the room, and tells her that he was harsh with her, but he loves her. On Thanksgiving Day, Lino attends the trip, and he receives Amy's mother, who will be the first to reach the place, and he is surprised that she criticizes all the food he made to him. She doesn't like anything about them, and with Amy's intervention, she greets her mother. And the father delivers and greets them, and they all gather at the table to eat together. And Beban on Amy's mother, she does not like Lino because he is white and not brown like them, and Amy's father asks Leno about his family, if they visit him. At Christmas, they tell Lino that his father boycotted him because he left them and did not want to work in agriculture, and he decided to remain a chef. Amy's mother is surprised. All that she will move to live next to them, the money of Los Angeles. He annoys Leno even more when he sees Amy's father with money and tells Leno that they don't need help, and that they live, and he decides that Leno will leave the place and go out for a walk alone, and Amy goes after him, and he tells her that he feels alienated and that he cannot belong to the place or to the people around him, and that he has no friends or family here, and he tells her that they were happy when they were in Florence. And Amy tries to improve Leno's mood, so she makes food the next day. She wakes him up at night so he can eat and asks him to get dressed. She is surprised when she takes the place to show football matches, because she knows that he loves her, and she will think of his homeland, and she gets to know people from Zio's Sicily. Leno agrees immediately. He is very happy, and they decide to call their parents to inform them of the news. But the first time Lino calls his father, he is surprised by his reaction, telling him that he shamed them twice. Once when I'm going to insult them and start doing something other than theirs. And the second time when he traveled to America and was associated with an American woman, and they know that from now on he disowns him, and he doesn't have a son, and he closes his face, and he decides to take Amy, they marry in Florence, the city where they first met, and people arrive to attend the wedding, and Amy receives them, and at the initial celebration, it becomes clear to Lino that he is upset, and Amy's family and relatives criticize everything in Italy and compare it to America. Because of them, he tells her that he will try solve the problem, and Leno goes to take Amy's father and talk to him far away. And Amy's father asks him at first about his family. Why isn't he happy? So Lino confesses to him that his father is not satisfied with the passport, and Amy's father decides that he will remain Lino's father and compensate him and go to complete the wedding preparations with him and buy him the suit. At that time, Lino's father and mother, who are fighting together, bloom because his mother wants to go away, and his father refuses completely, and on the day of joy, Amy begins to prepare herself among her family, and it goes down to Lino, who attended himself alone, and he tells her that he had hoped that his family would flourish and come to him. Amy holds his hand and tells him that from today they will both be family, and they have a new family for themselves, and they both go out, saying the vows of permissibility, and they held each other's hands after Lino persuaded her family. None of them go out with her, and he is the one who will come out, and then they will all start in dancing and singing together, and the next day, Leno and Amy travel to Turin for their honeymoon, but Amy persuades Lino and he takes her to Sicily, to his family to convince them that she is the messianic wife of their son, but as soon as they reach Sicily and Lino speaks to his father, the father refuses to receive them at his home. And the mother fights with the father because their son is in the city and you won't be able to see him. She also quarrels with his daughter because it is forbidden for them to go to her brother's wedding and forbid him to see her little daughter. Amy, Lino's sister, talks to him, and she agrees with him to meet him. And she brings her daughter and her mother from his father. Lino is happy when he hears the news from Amy, and he decides to take her to the island and release her to her. But he is surprised by the presence of his father in front of him in the market, who walks as soon as he sees him without saying hello to him, and Amy tries to comfort Lino, who was captured in the situation. He was upset, and his father, a fanatic, returned home, and before that, Amy and Leno travel. They meet Leno's mother and sister in front of the tunnel, and they get to know Amy, and Leno is happy that he was able to see them before he returns to Los Angeles in America. And Amy volunteers in a charity work to teach art to children and is promoted in her job. On the contrary, Melino finds the restaurant he works in closed due to lack of customers. So he decides to rent the place and open it for himself as an experimental restaurant. He presents the idea to Amy and tells her that he will take a risk and use all the money he saved for this risk. Amy holds his hand and agrees and supports him in executing the idea, and Amy receives an offer from the art gallery in which she volunteers, but for a small fee from the place where she works. And her mother is trying to convince her to offer because she admires the owner of the exhibition. Amy calls her father to get his opinion and tells him that her promotion in the old showroom means an increase in salary. This will help Lino achieve his dream and open the restaurant, but the new job will help her achieve her dream and indulge more in drawing and art, and she doesn't know what to do. Amy's father didn't want to give her any advice, and he tells her that this is something that concerns her and her husband only. They must take the decision together without any interference from anyone. And Lino starts preparing for the opening of the restaurant. On the opening day, Amy's family comes and surprises her falsely that she is bent on getting to know their mother. But as soon as they sit with her, the mother begins to ask Ken a lot of questions and makes him visit her, and they start walking early. After the opening ends, Emilio confesses to the problem she is facing, and she does not know which one to choose between them. He tells her that it is simple: I must accept with the new wazifa, and the two of them will be able to reduce their expenses in the coming period and achieve their dream together. But when Amy submits her resignation, she annoys her manager, who tells her that she considers her advantage, and she didn't imagine that she could leave them. As Amy returns home, Lino surprises her that the owners in front of the restaurant want to come back to share with him after people liked the food he served, and he tells her that he was celebrating himself, but his knee hurt him very much. When she asked for her help, she abandoned her and left their mother bothering Ken. Amy apologizes to her and tells her that she made a mistake when she chose the wrong time on an important day for Leno. So she faked the doctor's name on her WhatsApp and asked her to take a walk, gesticulate, You don't want to hear any other words. Amy and Lino go to the doctor and discover that Lino has a rare type of cancer, and his treatment will be violent and not easy. He must rest and not make any effort for the coming period, because if his knee bone is broken, cancer will spread throughout his body. And after they come home, he asks Amy for Leno. They hide the matter from their families. To some extent the surgery is done, chemotherapy and relief. And Leno starts to get very nervous, especially with Amy, the one who has to go back to her old job in order to know how to get money for treatment. Leno's hair starts to fall out, and his health deteriorated, but Amy prefers to take care of him until one day he falls and is taken to the hospital, and after he gets better, you beg him to tell his family. Amy and her mother receive Leno's father and mother at the airport and take them home to see him and check on him, and his mother prepares him food, but Amy, you tell her that he can't eat anything, because I made it tomorrow. Amy is surprised that Leno's father did not check on his son or see him. But at night, Leno's father goes to the room and looks at him from afar without anyone seeing him. The next day, Amy and Leno's family gather in the hospital. Leno enters operations, and he goes out after 4 hours to reassure them, telling them that the operation succeeded, and making Amy happy, and they go in to check on Lino, and Leno's father enters for the first time to check on him and eat him, and the first time Lino returns home, Amy discovers that he is his family, and they turned it into a similar to their house in Sicily and cut flowers and made clotheslines in the garden, and Amy gets nervous. The one who meets Leno's father and mother interferes in everything in the house. But she keeps silent because she is happy to see Lino among his family for the first time in years. Lino and Amy's family gather to celebrate Christmas. And when Lino comes back, he annoys Lino when the story of the grandchildren opens up, and he goes out to the garden, and she goes to see Kema Wasim, but Lino gets angry at her and enters his room, and Amy feels stress and tension, and goes to the bathroom to cry alone. They have to receive treatment in Switzerland, but they are still on trial, and they have a chance to think well before they make their decision. Leno's father fights with the doctor because they will treat the infidels of Amy's experiences outside the room. She shrieks at him and tells him that this is his son's decision and his son's life status. Leno agrees to go through the experiment, and Amy decides that she supports him in his decision, and they go home and dine all together with their family, and falsely announces her official engagement to Kane, and congratulate them all, those present. But Lino is fighting with his father, because he insults a stranger, and he didn't think of insulting his son. The father begins to get angry with him and tells him that his son is disobedient, insulting and disgraceful to the family. So Leno replies to him and tells him that he is going to chase his dream and make a home and a family, and he should respect his decision and accept it as he is, and he thinks that he is tired and exhausted and that he cannot fight the disease and fight it at the same time. Since then, Leno's father has changed and tries to deal better with his son, and he decides to accept any decision he takes. Lino, Amy and Leno's parents bid farewell to return to Sicily. 10 months later, the doctor tells Lino and Amy about the success of the medicine, but he tells them that he must do checkups every 3 months to be reassured that the cancer has not returned, and Lino does not believe the news, and Amy flies with joy and hugs, and they come back to celebrate among their friends and Amy's family, and he calls Lino. Ball tells them about the news, and he is surprised by his mother, and she tells him that his father passed away, and you didn't want to tell him until he finished his examination, and you ask him to take care of his health. He is sure that his father loved him very much. Amy stands with Leno to pass the crisis of losing his father. Lino thanks her for everything she did for him and with his family, and he asks her that they don't wait for more than that, and they work and family, and they leave children. Amy goes to the hospital, and she knows from the doctor that she will not be able to leave anything but IVF. Amy rejects the idea and decides with Lino that they adopt a child and raise him together and go to a nursing home. The director of the house asks them to prepare a file containing their story and pictures of them in order to present it, and each one of them starts writing about the other, and why they will remain a responsible family and father and mother for the child they are going to adopt, and they prepare the room in which they will receive the child, and then they prepare themselves. Farah visited him, but they receive a call from the house on the day of the wedding, and she asks them to visit him and leave quickly because they are waiting for this moment, and Lino Amy decides that they name the child they adopted Dahlia Rose, who are happy with her and take care of her all the time, and they continue to do tests every 3 months to check on Lino. Amy agrees with Lino that she will return to work, and he stays at home, taking care of Idalia, because his health can't bear to return to work at the present time, and Idalia and Lino grow up. He devotes all his time to her. Amy tries to juggle her work and home, but the more you grow ideally, Amy feels jealousy, stress and tension, and she sees her daughter as close to her father more. However, she feels that she is missing out for a long time. You watch her grow up, and you will recover one day. She entered the university, and she did not live with her journey while she was growing up. One day, Amy returns home and finds her daughter's classmates in the nursery, and their mothers are with her. At home, they cook with Lino and she gets jealous of them and starts fighting with Lino because of them. Then she confesses to him the reasons for her stress and nervousness, and that she feels that she is a bad mother, and a change in his relationship with idealism. Lino understands that she is jealous of him because he spends a lot of time with Idia. He is also annoyed that he is unable to do the work he loves, and it decides from then Amy spend more time with Idalia. And Lino decided that he would take cooking courses as long as he could not be a chef and would stand in the kitchen for a long time. One day Lino feels tired and decides to do a comprehensive examination immediately, and he goes to the hospital while he is tense and afraid of the outcome, and Lino tells Amy that he went to the doctor, but Amy sees the hospital paper in me junk and she goes to blame him for hiding her, and he tells her that he didn't want to worry her, and the result is still not out. Then they go to the doctor, who tells them that the cancer has returned, but this time in the lung. Lino returns again for treatment. Amy tries to hold on and stay with Italy, and she understands that her father is going to undergo treatment and that she is trying at this time to be with him as long as possible, and never disturb her school plan and schedule. Amy cuts Lino's hair so he can start chemotherapy again, but this time, he is upset and afraid because he has a daughter and he wants to take care of her. He teaches her many things and takes her to the country of Sicily and releases her to her. Lino develops a high fever and is taken to intensive care, and Amy comes to the hospital when the news reaches her. Her family gathers at home to take care of Adelia and support them their plight, and Amy stays in Lino's arms until he gets over, and then she goes to check on Idalia, who asks her to go and see her father in the hospital. Amy promised her that if Lino didn't come home soon, she would take her to the hospital to see him. Amy feels terrible psychological pressure, and her sister tries to relieve her. At the hospital, the doctor reassures them that Lino's condition has begun to stabilize, and Amy's family enters to check on Lino, and her sister tells them that she is pregnant. Amy receives a call from Lino's mother telling her that she is praying for her son, especially after she had a dream that he was dying. And Amy begs her to shut up and hangs up with her. She argues that he is coming to talk to her and asks Lino Amy after she comes back from the room about Idalia. So the nurse tells them that children are not allowed to enter this area of the hospital, but Amy and her family are making a plot and a plan to get them. Idalia is behind the nursing and doctor's kit. Idalia is happy and hugs her father when she sees him. At night, Lino asks Amy to go home and she stays with Idalia, and he sits alone writing in his diary while he is crying and frustrated. The next day she enters. She will talk to Lino and Amy and tell them that the results of the tests are not good and that he will need a liver transplant. Amy performs behind the doctor after she graduated and trying to understand from her Lino's problem, but the doctor refuses to answer, and after Amy returns, she finds the nurses, and they take Lino to do tests for him. Amy refuses to want him and tries to understand what is going on. And another doctor enters, explaining the situation to them, and saying that he is a cancer patient, his liver is collapsing, and his body has entered the period of death, and the doctor asks about the way he would like to complete the remaining time in his life. So Lino asks that he return home and die among his family, and Amy breaks down, and you speak. Lino's mother tells her about the news. After they return home, Lino sits with Adelia most of the time, and a specialized psychiatrist comes to talk to Amy and try to make her understand the situation and understand how she can deal with her daughter and how she can understand the situation as well, so that they know how to deal with it, especially after Leno's death. Amy cannot understand everything that is happening around her, but she tries to stay. She is strong in front of her daughter and in front of Leno, and he joins Leno's friends and Amy's family to spend with him the last days of his life, but Amy prevents him from completing his words, and she thanks him for the life and love that prevented them from her, and she tells him that she is waiting for him in her dreams, and Leno dies in Amy's lap, and with the intervention of Amy e. Dahlia, the room to bid farewell to her father, Amy's family gathers at home to stand with her and support her in her ordeal, but Amy breaks down and refuses to eat or drink, and preferably folded in her room, and she falsely enters her and tries to outdo her, telling her that her daughter needs her and that she cannot see her like this, and they are slowly losing her. Amy cries and tells Zora that she cannot get up from her promise to Lino. She takes their daughter Sicilian and hugs her and tries to comfort her. As the days pass, Amy takes her daughter and travels to Lino's family, who receive her and hug them. He passed away when she was 10 years old, but she could feel his presence around her and told her that she could also feel Lino's presence and his spirit around her and that he felt her, and she goes. Amy is with Lino's family and relatives to bury him and leave their hands in the children's house. The next day, Lino's mother sits with Amy and tells her that she feels her and her feelings now, because she felt it with the death of her husband, but she has to be strong for her daughter, and as the days go by, Amy tries to hold her together, but she feels severe psychological pressure because of Lino's absence and the different customs of the people of his area, but what makes her patient is her daughter's happiness among the children and her playing with them. As Amy grows closer to Leno's mother, they spend more time together, and they talk and become friends, and Amy appreciates, with the passage of time, dreaming of Lino. One day, Lino's mother asks her to go to the lawyer, who tells her that Lino's mother wrote to her to give her the house and the land, but Amy refuses to sign and argues with Leno's mother, telling her that this is not her right because she is not from their family and does not belong in this place. But Leno's mother, she tells her that Merritt is her only son and Idalia is her granddaughter, and this is her right, and she begs her not to leave her with them, and they continue together in taking care of Idalia, and give her the last option. With time, Amy is able to win the love of the people in the area after they used to treat her as a stranger to them, and Leno's mother asks Amy, her family intends to come with them to celebrate our national holiday, and Amy is happy and hugs her. Indeed, Amy's family comes in. The people of the country welcome them. Amy welcomes them and hugs them, and they all gather in Leno's house with his mother and sister. She told her that she was happy to stay with her and that she was able to find a missing item among them, and Leno's mother buried her a room where Lino used to sit and read, and she says to her she can turn it into a studio if she wants to live with her. At that time, Amy decides to continue her life in the place where Lino is and raise their daughter. And don't forget to subscribe to the Ladybug Synopsis channel.